The Galactic Council had watched humanity for 300 years. They observed from the dark spaces between stars, hidden behind sensor shields that no primitive species could detect. The Council was old. It had existed for 12 million years, and it had seen countless young species rise from their birth worlds. Most of these species never became a threat. They destroyed themselves with war, pollution, or simple stupidity. The Council rarely needed to act. But humans were different. High Counselor stood before the great viewing screen in the council chambers. His 4 eyes studied the blue planet that hung in the darkness. Earth. Such a small world. Such a dangerous world. Behind him, the representatives of 900 species waited in silence. They had all come to witness this moment. The moment when humanity would finally be dealt with. They have developed faster than any species in recorded history, and said. His voice was calm, but there was worry beneath his words. In 300 years, they went from chemical rockets to fusion drives. They have colonized their moon and Mars. They are building ships that could reach other stars within a century. A murmur passed through the chamber. The representative, a massive creature covered in gray scales, leaned forward. Then we must act now, before they spread. Agreed, said the delegate. Her crystalline body glowed with soft blue light. We have seen what happens when aggressive species reach the stars. The war killed trillions. We cannot allow another such conflict. And nodded slowly. He had hoped it would not come to this. In his long life, he had ordered the destruction of only 2 species. Both times it had been necessary. Both times he had felt the weight of those deaths on his soul. Now he would carry the weight of 8 billion more. The vote was unanimous, he said. Humanity will be cleansed. Their world will be sterilized. It is regrettable but necessary. The Council's war fleet was already in position. 2,000 ships hung in the darkness beyond Earth's detection range. Each ship carried weapons that could crack continents and boil oceans. Against such force, humanity had no defense. Their small fleet of exploration vessels and orbital stations would be swept aside like dust before a storm. And raised his hand. Begin the attack. The fleet moved forward. Silent engines pushed them toward the blue world. In less than 1 hour they would be in range. In less than 2 hours humanity would be extinct. But something was wrong. The first sign came when the fleet's long-range sensors swept across Earth. The readings made no sense. The cities were dark. The orbital stations were empty. The ships that should have been patrolling near the planet were gone. There were no radio signals, no electronic communications, no signs of activity at all. Report and commanded. Fleet Commander appeared on the screen. His face showed confusion. High Counselor, there appears to be no resistance. In fact, there appears to be no one here at all. Earth is silent. Explain. We are detecting no life signs, no active technology, no movement of any kind. Hesitated. The planet appears to be abandoned. A cold feeling spread through En's body. He had lived for 8,000 years. He had learned to trust his instincts, and right now, his instincts were screaming that something was very, very wrong. Send scouts to the surface, he ordered. I want to know what happened. 3 small ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. They landed in different locations. One touched down in what had been New York City. Another landed in Beijing. The third set down in London. The scout teams emerged from their vessels and found the same thing everywhere. Empty streets, empty buildings, empty vehicles. The humans had left everything behind. Their homes still held furniture and personal items. Food still sat in refrigerators, now rotted. In some places, meals had been left on tables, never eaten. It was as if 8 billion people had simply vanished in a single moment. Where did they go? Whispered. The answer came 2 hours later, when a technician discovered a message. It had been left in every major city, written in the Council's own language. How the humans had learned this language was a mystery that made blood run cold. The message was simple. We knew you were watching. We knew you would come, so we left. By the time you read this, we will be far beyond your reach. You thought you were studying us. You were wrong. We were studying you. We learned your language, your technology, your weaknesses. We built ships you could not detect. We found worlds you do not know exist. We are no longer on Earth. We are everywhere and nowhere. You had your chance to welcome us as friends. You chose to be our enemies. Remember this choice. One day we will return. And on that day the council will answer for its crimes. Sleep well, counselors. We will be watching. And read the message 3 times. His hands were shaking. In 12 million years, no species had ever escaped the council's judgment. No species had ever seen them coming. No species had ever turned the tables so completely. How? The representative demanded. How is this possible? Our surveillance was perfect. But an understood. The council had made a terrible mistake. They had watched humanity with the arrogance of elders looking down at children. They had assumed that humans were primitive, that they could not possibly understand what was happening around them. They had underestimated humanity's greatest strength. Paranoia. Humans were a species that saw danger everywhere. They wrote stories about alien invasions. They built weapons to fight enemies that did not exist. They suspected everyone and trusted no one. When the Council's surveillance drones first entered Earth's system, the humans had noticed. They had not announced their discovery. They had not panicked. They had simply started planning. For 300 years, the humans had played a role. They had pretended to be exactly what the Council expected: primitive, divided, slowly advancing. All the while, their real work happened in secret: hidden bases, secret fleets. Technology developed in the shadows. When the Council finally decided to strike, the humans were ready. They had vanished like ghosts. In the years that followed, the Council searched for the lost humans. They sent ships to every corner of the galaxy. They offered rewards for information. They threatened lesser species with destruction if they helped the humans hide. Nothing worked. The humans had disappeared completely. But they had not gone silent. Strange things began to happen. A Council supply station exploded without warning. A colony world reported seeing strange lights in their sky before their entire communication network went dark for 3 days. A research vessel found a message carved into an asteroid in their home system. It said only 2 words: "We remember." Fear spread through the Council. For the first time in millions of years, the great powers of the galaxy were afraid. They jumped at shadows. They suspected their neighbors of hiding the humans. Ancient alliances began to crack under the pressure of mutual suspicion. And watched his empire begin to crumble. He had tried to prevent a war with humanity. Instead, he had started one. A war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. A war against an enemy that could not be found. A war against ghosts who struck without warning and vanished without trace. 20 years after Earth was abandoned, the first human ship appeared in Council space. It was small, hardly larger than a shuttle, and it carried a single passenger, a human female with gray hair and calm eyes. She requested permission to address the Council. Against all advice, and allowed it. She stood before the assembled representatives of 900 species. She looked at them without fear, without anger, without hatred. There was only a cold, patient certainty in her eyes. "My name is," she said. "I speak for the human diaspora. We have watched you for 20 years just as you watched us. We have seen your fear. We have seen your suspicion tearing you apart. We could destroy you. We have the means, but we have chosen another path." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We offer you a choice, the same choice you us. You can continue to be our enemies. You can spend the next 1,000 years looking over your shoulders, waiting for the strike that may come at any moment, or you can accept us as equals. You can open your borders and your markets. You can share knowledge and technology. You can welcome humanity into the galactic community, not as a threat to be eliminated, but as a partner to be embraced." The representative stood up, his scales bristling with rage. "You dare threaten us. You are one species against 900. smiled. It was a smile that held no warmth. "We are one species that escaped your judgment, one species that has lived in your shadows for 20 years without being found, one species that has proven it can strike anywhere at any time without warning." Her smile faded. "The question is not whether you can destroy us. The question is whether you can afford to try." The council debated for 3 months. In the end, they had no choice. They could not find the humans. They could not fight the humans. They could not ignore the humans. The only option left was to accept them. Humanity joined the Galactic Council not as conquered subjects, but as equals. They came not from Earth, but from 1,000 hidden worlds scattered across the galaxy. They brought technology the Council had never imagined. They brought ideas that challenged everything the elder species believed. They brought change. And they never forgot. Every year, on the anniversary of Earth's abandonment, humans everywhere would pause and remember. They would remember the fear of those final days. They would remember the desperate escape into the unknown. They would remember the long years of hiding and planning and waiting. And they would remember the lesson they had learned. Trust no one, expect betrayal, always have an escape plan. Earth itself was eventually reclaimed. Humans returned to their birth world and rebuilt what had been abandoned. But Earth was no longer humanity's home. It was a monument, a reminder of how close extinction had come. Children visited on school trips. They walked through the empty cities that had been preserved exactly as they were found. They read the messages left behind for the council to find. And they understood. The galaxy had tried to kill them. The galaxy had failed. Now humanity was spread across 1,000 worlds, integrated into every aspect of galactic society. They were politicians and scientists, merchants and soldiers, artists and engineers. They were everywhere. And they were watching. And lived for another 2,000 years after his visit to the council. In all that time, he never forgot the lesson he had learned. The lesson about underestimating humans. The lesson about the price of arrogance. On his deathbed, he dictated his final thoughts to be recorded in the council archives. "We thought we were gods," he said. "We thought we could judge the worth of species and dispose of those we deemed unworthy. We were wrong. The humans taught us humility. They taught us fear. They taught us that the universe is far more complex than we imagined, and that even the smallest species can hold the greatest surprises. Learn from our mistake. Never underestimate the will to survive. Never underestimate humanity." The galaxy had struck at Earth expecting easy victory. Instead, they found only silence and shadows. By the time the Galactic Council struck, Earth was a silent tomb. But the humans who had lived there were very much alive. They were out among the stars, building their future, remembering their past, and making certain that no one would ever threaten them again. This is how humanity joined the stars, not through friendship or diplomacy, but through cunning and determination. They turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. They proved that sometimes the best way to survive is to disappear. And they showed the galaxy that underestimating humans is the most dangerous mistake anyone can make. The silent tomb of Earth stands as a reminder, a warning, a promise. Humanity will endure. Humanity will adapt. Humanity will overcome. And anyone who threatens humanity will learn, as the Council learned, that some species refuse to die quietly. They had tried to end humanity before it could spread. They failed. Now humanity is everywhere, and they are watching, always watching, never forgetting, forever ready. This is the way of humans. This is why they survive. This is why they will always survive.